Hello, family, and welcome to my channel. Before we get started, make sure you have subscribed. And once you subscribe, be sure to click on that bell notification so you're notified every single time I post another video. So let's get started. Let's talk about Curlsmith and your overall hair and product selection. So, number one, we need to stop the comparison. The number one mistake that we make, in my opinion, is seeing a new product hit the shelf, and the first thing you want to do is compare it to other products that are on. And this is something that we have done in the community as it pertains to Curlsmith and Olaplex. Olaplex and Curlsmith are two very different products with two very different chemical compounds. Different products have different purposes. Some serve the purpose of bond repair, retention, moisture, protein, and the list goes on. Now, we need to read the label. Retention. Retention is one of the most important things, and I think it's the thing that we pay the least amount of attention to because we're so worried about hair growth that we pay no attention to the hair that actually comes through our scalp. Now, with a product like Curlsmith, this is something that is meant to prepare your hair for certain styles, because when you are manipulating the bonds within your hair, whether you're doing it with a chemical compound or anything like that, it is imperative that your hair is protected. Most of the time we lose hair and we cannot retain length because the bonds in our hair are not properly protected. There are three bonds that hold our hair together. Okay. This is the first bond that I told you about, the hydrogen bond. Okay. And the second bond that we talked about is the disulfide bond, which we will get to in a second, but the salt bond is very important. It is 1/3 of the hair's overall strength, and these bonds are broken by changes in the pH balance of the hair. So products that are any higher than a 5.5 on the pH scale is going to break the salt bonds in the hair. Now, because the salt bond is responsible for 1/3 of your hair's overall strength, when those salt bonds begin to constantly break over and over again, your hair gets weaker and weaker and weaker. Over time, a lot of people think that their hair is thinning out, but sometimes your hair just develops this really, really transparent look. So your hair looks thinner than it really is because you're constantly breaking the salt bond down in the hair. Now, the hydrogen bond we've talked about over and over again, a couple channels that, make fun of me for that, but hydrogen bond is the bond that is easily broken by water. So the hydrogen bond is that bond that I'm always telling you guys, okay, do not detangle your hair wet. This is why. The reason that I'm telling you not to detangle your hair wet is because the hydrogen bond is the bond within your hair shaft that is easily broken with water. And when that bond is broken, your hair is weakened, because these are the bonds that are holding your hair together. If all three of these bonds need to hold hands and one is broken with water, the structure of your hair is now weak. It is a scientific fact, okay? And so now this leads me to the disulfide bond. This is the bond right here that is most important, in my opinion. And this is the bond that caused me to get so upset on this phone call right here. You keep saying that you specialize in black hair. Can you please explain to me the inner compounds and the inner structures of black hair? Can you please explain to me between the difference of the sulfur to sulfur protein linkages between my hair and your hair? Can you explain that to me really quick?
Let's go back to
no, why can't you answer that question? If you specialize, answer the question. What is the difference between the sulfur to sulfur protein linkages in black hair and Caucasian hair? What is the difference? I don't understand why this is why was that laughable?
Yeah. Well, you know what? How about this? I can't answer you.
I know you can't, because you do not specialize in black hair. Hair is made up of a protein called keratin, and hair grows through a sac called the follicle. And the cells within the follicle that produce keratin make up the hair shaft. Within those proteins, there are sulfur atoms, and when two or more of those sulfur atoms link up together, they create a disulfide bond, which is one of those bonds that we're talking about. Now, this is what makes your hair curly, and this is the answer that I needed her to give me. When there are groups of proteins attached to these bonds, the hair will curl. So the more protein that you have attached to the disulfide bond, the curlier your hair becomes. So whenever you are doing any type of chemical service, you need to ensure that the disulfide bonds are protected and multiplied at all times. That is why I asked that question, because for you to manipulate curly hair, you need to understand how the bonds within the hair shaft work, point blank, period. So that is why I really, really want you guys to really understand the chemical compounds of your hair and understand why it is important to pay attention to these facts and pay attention to the people who do not know them. Okay. Now, when we are talking about your cuticle and when we are talking about what is making your hair curly, anytime you are doing any type of chemical, any type of color, what we're doing is breaking this bond right here. We're breaking this bond right here. We're opening the hair's cuticle, and then I'm going to pull out pigment, put pigment within. Or if I am trying to relax your hair or give you a jerry curl or anything like that, what I am going to do, I am going to slowly but strategically, with the product that I am using, start to detach some of the protein that is attached to the bond that is holding your hair together. I really, really hope that this is making sense. So it is important that you have a type of product that matches your porosity, because your porosity is what determines your hair's ability to absorb moisture. So do you see all of these scales right here? These scales right here are made up of dead keratin cells, and this is known as your hair's cuticle. Okay, so your porosity is going to determine the level that these are swollen shut or open too. So if you are a person with high porosity hair, these scales are tight. Okay, or almost closed. If you have low porosity hair, these are really tight. If you have high porosity hair like me, these scales are very loose. Are very lifted and high. They're letting everybody in. I have high porosity hair. Or if you have normal porosity hair, these are really, really loose. And so it's good. Loose is good because it's not holding stuff in, and then it's releasing it like it's supposed to. Everything is good. It's able to absorb. So normal porosity hair is like some of the best porosity, but this is porosity. So understanding the porosity of your hair is what is going to determine how products are able to absorb. So that's why when everybody's like, oh, why aren't you letting her talk? The reason that I did not want her to talk is because I didn't want more negative information being spread. It was mentioned in the video that one of the main things, like, oh, with products, it's so important that products aren't thick, because if they're thick, they don't absorb. The way that products work have nothing to do with the product absorption. It's all about your level of porosity. When you are dealing with a chemical of any kind, it's going to raise the cuticle regardless of your level of porosity. That is why a person with low porosity hair can be transformed to a person with high porosity hair if they break the salt bonds too much, because you can force this cuticle open. So that is why it is so important for you to know what level these layers are lifted to. Do you have low porosity hair where these scales are closed? Do you have high porosity hair where these scales are lifted? Or do you have normal porosity hair where these scales are loose? These are the questions and the answers that you need to have before you even go see a hairstylist, guys. We can learn the science of our hair, and if you know the science of your hair, somebody outside of your lane cannot come and sell you bull. So let's get back to Curlsmith. Curlsmith is different. It's something that's different from Olaplex, because Olaplex is one of those brands that they have science backing them strongly, but it's like some stuff in the lab, and and it's nothing wrong with that, okay? Because they are making products that make it easier for stylists and professional stylists to do chemical services, as well as making it easier for you to be able to maintain those chemical services after you get them. And the list just goes on and on. But here with Curlsmith, it's amazing too, because here are their ingredients. All of their ingredients are absolutely amazing. Make sure you check out my website, because I am going to have a full full blog post coming to break down all of the amazing benefits of all of these ingredients because we just do not have the time here right now. But I need you to research. That is number one. So when you guys see a bottle, I purposely made sure that all of the information I included on these slides can be found on the bottle. So I didn't do any super masterful research, guys. All of this right here is on the bottle. So while you're in the store, before you purchase, while you're online, simply look at the ingredients and then go Google, press chia seeds, Google, press chia seeds. What do they do for the hair? Do your research. And because you know your level of porosity, you know what your hair can or cannot take. And so then you can look at this ingredient list and make a decision for yourself. Maybe this isn't the best product for me. It may be better for someone else, but maybe not for me. Research. That is most important. Figure out what those ingredients are going to do and what your body is needing at that present time. So, tip number one, the really, really easy way to do this is keep a journal. Most people think that journaling is only for your emotions. Okay, it's not just for your emotions. How are you feeling day to day? Understand that your hair is attached to your body, and we don't want to accept that our hair growth and different things like that can be affected by the way that we're feeling and the things that we're going through. So keep a journal and pay attention to how your hair growth issues coincide with what you're dealing with in life, what you're feeling. Are you noticing that you're shedding more now because you're a little more stressed out? And this is the thing, you don't have to beat yourself up for that because there's a herb for everything. So if you notice that, oh, I've been really, really stressed out and I've been journaling, so I noticed that my shedding started around the time that I started stressing out. Now, at this point, you can go back in and you can do some serious problem solving. You can go and say, okay, what herb is going to help me alleviate some of this stress? Or what herb can possibly help me to just do away with some of these deficiencies that I'm dealing with? Okay. All of these things are really, really, really important. And the only way that you can track it is if you keep a journal. Tip number two, you need to problem solve. In keeping this journal, I need you to really, really be honest with yourself. Nobody's reading the journal but you. So what issues are you having? Really write it down. Like, is your scalp dry? Like, and be descriptive. Say, my scalp dry. It look like little flakes, little Rice Krispie treat flakes, little, I don't know, frosted flakes. They're great, but I don't feel great. I don't know. Be descriptive. If it's extra, be extra. If you have oily scalp, excessive shedding, balding, all of these things, I need you to write it down. And another thing that I need you to keep in mind, write down what your goals are. What are your goals? Do you need length retention? Do you need growth? Do you need a new routine? Do you just need more hairstyles? Be intentional and write your things down, the things that you need, and make it plain, because most of the time you don't know what you want to do with your hair. You never do anything with it, and then you book an appointment with a hairstylist. She just met you that day and you want her to figure out your life. Girl, keep a journal. So, tip number three, I need you to use all of the information that you have from step one and number two and feel your need. Look for products to aid you in repair, because you've been keeping a journal. You know what you need, you know what you're lacking, and all of that. And you've been reading up and doing your own research, so you can look for products to aid you in the deficiencies that you have. Once you have filled the need and you have products that match your, problem, then you can come up with a plan. Follow your growth cycle and set up a new routine. Learn the natural growth cycle of the human body and then match that with the journal that you've been keeping for yourself. Once you have a new routine, then you can constantly follow that pattern because your body follows cycles. You are everlasting. It's an everlasting winding cycle. So if you can master the cycle of your body, you can master your hair growth cycle, just like you to master, PMSing and stuff like that, okay? And lastly, I need you to stay consistent for at least 6 months. So many times you'll do something and you'll do it for like 2 months, like I don't see results, and then you stop. Well, listen, all of the negative habits that you've had for years within the double digits. So why do you think after a couple of months, all of the damage that you've done will be repaired? It doesn't work like that, family. Take time, stay consistent. Listen, tip number 4, let's make this a team effort. And we have to trust each other. Trust each other enough to not necessarily, whenever you hear me say something in the video, like, okay, I'm about to listen to whatever she said and that's it. No, write down what I've been saying, research it, and don't just Google it. Not through YouTube. Really research it. Read some books. Your definition of research now in 2021 is very flawed, guys. The definition of research is not going online and finding other YouTube videos made by people who need to do research as well. When I say do your research, I'm saying go and find some valid, verified information about the science of your body, and let's share the facts and sit down at the table with each other, and let's really be honest and give people their credit, family, okay? Knowledge will give you power, but character will give you respect. And that's from Bruce Lee. Yes, truth always wins, guys. And it's so vitally important that we really, really pay attention. Just read everything, study everything, research everything, and you will not be taken advantage of. This is not just coming from me. I don't want you to take my word at face value. I want you to dive deep. I am just showing you which angle to go walk in and look for the information, but you need to go pull the book out, rent it out yourself with your own library card. You're not using my library card, okay? I love you guys so much. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, and then follow me on Instagram. If you have any questions or anything like that you want to be on private, then email me and stuff. Okay, bye.